All right, hey everyone. Sorry for the technical glitches there, but we are ready to start the webinar. I'm just waiting for Dr. Karen to log in as well. So she will be on the webinar momentarily. And again, I apologize for the late start, a little bit of a technical glitch there. Okay, so looks like we have 12 people on right now. So if you want to actually go ahead and put your name, oh, hey Jim, pretty quiet I know so far. But we got it going on. We're going to get started in about 2 minutes. I'm just waiting for Dr. Karen to log in as well and get we'll go ahead and get started. So while we're doing that, and would anyone like to just say, go to the chat box there and just say hello? Let me know where you're from. All right, anyone just go ahead. And Dr. Karen will be here just momentarily, and we should be able to get started. Otherwise, hi Sandra, Reno, cool. Hey Frank, hola, where are you from? There's Dr. Karen. Dr. Karen, are you live?
Hey, I am live now.
Okay, good.
Technical glitches. Jesus.
Yeah. Hi, Jean. How you doing?
Hi,
Dennis, you're from the Master Circle. Great.
Cool.
Jim, Folsom, beautiful. Okay, well, I'm going to go, I apologize again for the late start, technical glitches. This is how things go, my experience has been for every freaking webinar I've ever done. So let's go ahead and start giving you the goods. So I'm just going to go right to a screen share, Karen, and we'll we'll introduce ourselves, let everyone know a little bit about us and about podcasting. And let's see here. Hold on one sec.
Hi to Dennis. Actually, Dennis, we said already hello to Frank, Jordan, Jean, Jim. Awesome to have you guys all here. Stoked to present today.
Okay, can you see the slideshow there, Dr. K?
I do not.
You do not? Great.
I do not. Okay. You had it on, then it just flipped out for a second.
Let's try this again. And desktop.
We need like some Jeopardy music or something.
Yeah,
like
really, I know. It's like technical glitch after technical glitch today.
Hang in, everybody. It'll be worth it. It'll be worth it.
Dr. Kay, why don't you start sharing a little bit about yourself first?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I'm a chiropractor, as is Ed. I graduated about 14.5 years ago, and I opened our office, which is in St. Albert, Alberta, Canada, in 2002. And in the meantime, the reason I'm on this podcast today is I started a podcast which is called Mom at 41. And that was almost a year ago, actually. It'll be a year anniversary, July 29th. And I had been blogging on my chiropractic office, our chiropractic office website for a few years, and I shared a lot of the struggles that I had as a mom. It's called Mom at 41 because I became a mom for the first time at the age of 41, and I actually ended up adopting our two boys, Tyson and Kai. And there was just a lot of struggles I found with it. And so sharing that on the blog, the blogs that I did on parenting, and I did ones, of course, in chiropractic and nutrition and exercise and mindset, but the ones on parenting, like, just blew up. Like, there was all these comments, and people would talk to me in the office about it, and they'd email me. So after a while, I just kind of realized that there needs to be a space for this. And the common theme I was getting from a lot of moms, and that was whether they're stay-at-home or working moms, for professional moms like myself, that they felt like they weren't enough. They felt like they weren't doing this. They were screwing everything up, and yet they couldn't really have the conversation with their friends and their family because they felt judged, and they felt like they were all alone. They were the only one that was not the perfect mom. And so that was really my idea of creating Mom at 41, is to really help moms embrace their imperfections and to create this community. And in the meantime, since that as well, too, I also am a doTERRA wellness advocate and teaching lots of moms how to create financial abundance. But the podcast is really what started it all, and that's why I'm so thrilled to be on here with Ed today. Okay, so Ed, we can see your screen now.
Yay.
We are good, yeah.
Okay, so here's what we need to talk about is me. So the Chiropractic Philanthropist. Who doesn't know about the Chiropractic Philanthropist? It's been out there. I created this podcast actually August. We're coming up on our anniversary. So August of last year, I created the entire podcast within 4 weeks. I had 0 broadcast experience, and yet, you know what? That didn't stop me. And even after about 3 months of just having my podcast out there, and my purpose really just to connect with my community of doctors, of chiropractors, I'll tell you a little bit more about my entire story later. But it was really, you know, after just 3 months, I realized that it was an incredible way to connect not just with people within my profession, so chiropractors, but I was connecting with people all over the world. Now, that may be important to you, Doc, may be important to you to, you know, establish your expertise, your authority within even your community locally. So we're going to talk a little bit about the amazing benefits of the networking. I mean, think about it. Within 2 months, I was on the phone with people that in our profession, that I was sitting in seminars and listening to. And now I was on the phone chatting with them and asking them for advice and making arrangements and joint ventures. And all of these things can happen within your own community when you actually have your podcast, you have that authority, and you can book these people in your community that are local experts and build those relationships. It's an incredible networking tool. And that's what I want to focus on today. But one of the biggest things too that we haven't talked about, and I get this from doctors all the time, is, Dr. Ed, I get it, sounds great. Where do I find the content? The other thing that they also know or want to know is, tell me, Dr. Ed, what exactly is a podcast? And how difficult is it for me to actually create my own podcast? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to throw up and the reason I'm going to do this is because I always forget to do this. I'm going to actually throw up the enrollment form.
Don't say throw up. That sounds bad.
I'm going to put up
I
got to load this because we had a technical difficulty. I'm going to load that now because it's only going to be up for an hour. Okay, so there's an offer there, Dr. K. Can you see the offer? Should be on the right-hand side in the webinar GM.
Hold on. Yes, I do.
Okay,
it's
great.
Good to go.
Okay.
Yep.
So that is the enrollment page. For anyone who wants to go and link over to there, don't worry, you're not going to lose the webinar if you do and you go and take a look, because it has a clock on it, because there's going to be some special offers today that we're going to give to anyone who enrolls in TCP today that has, we've never given these away before. And I'm going to tell you what those offers are right now, because I know doctors are time starved. They're going to be bouncing in and out of the webinar as we go. Here's the bonuses. I'm actually going to send you, everyone who enrolls today, I'm going to send you the exact same mic. We're going to ship it to you that I use on TCP Podcast. So that mic is an Audio-Technica ATR 2100. It is over $100 value. And everyone who enrolls today, you get that mic. I have used mics that are of incredible production quality, and I always come back to this one. I love this mic. It's great. My dog's can be barking like crazy, and it still gives you great tone. Doesn't pick up all these flops and things like that too. So
yeah, I like that one. If I can interject too, Ed, you got a much more expensive one, and then we got it, and I was like, I hate this thing. Like it always came back to that one. It's a great mic.
I love it, and yeah, I've done a few recordings, and even the audio quality, I didn't like it. So that's one of the things we're going to throw up today, where I'm going to include in the program today for any enrollees over this time period. We're going to give them my common sense ROF, which is really just the ROF that I used, that you don't sound like a robot, and it built my Rockin' Family Busy Practice and my Facebook funnel, because I'm going to talk about marketing. We're not just going to get people, doctors, up and launched on their podcast, but we want to actually give them ways that they can actually market. So we are going to give them my Facebook funnel system so they can actually use Facebook as a social media tool to increase and funnel people into their office. Now, here's the kicker. I'm giving my accelerator membership. Now, my accelerator membership is a $400 value, which means I am going to personally set up your Libsyn account. And you may be going, Doc, what is a Libsyn account? Libsyn is the biggest block most docs have when they go to actually creating their podcast. They get everything done and creative, and then they go, oh, I'm afraid of Libsyn. I'm going to do all of that, tweak it for SEO, and get you approved on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. That is a $400 value. So I'm actually going to take out most of the work for most docs that are here on this webinar today if they decide to enroll with TCP for that lifetime membership that we have. I'm not done. I got one more bonus, and that is actually I am launching TCP video podcasting. Do not underestimate the value of video podcasting on iTunes. It's new, it's innovative. I'm going to show you how you can repurpose your blogs and place them onto iTunes. Video podcasting, it's a $590 value. That program is going to be actually launched in about 2 weeks, and that's the investment that'll be on there. All right, so let's get started. I told Dr. Karen if I start talking really fast to tell me to slow down, because that's what I tend to do. So let's go ahead.
So we're kind of screwed.
All right, so here's the thing. Podcasting is all about when I created my podcast, and Dr. Karen, maybe it's the same thing, but when I was looking at podcasting for chiropractors on a local basis, it's really about the biggest challenge is they want more time and they want more freedom. And this I can definitely relate to is I wanted more time with my kids, with my family, be at home, not taking time away from myself, like going and doing screenings on the weekend, going and doing workshops. Not that I didn't love doing those things, but I wanted to create something that I could record one time, then I could market it, to multiple people. I mean, imagine this, doctor, having your own broadcast, your own podcast on iTunes. And even if you would like to have that door to go in and do a corporate lecture at one of those, places that are in your community, and you can't get in that door, well, you could say, well, hey, I have a podcast. I'm an expert. I have a podcast. I've interviewed these experts. I've been downloaded this many times and listened to in this many countries. That's your in as well into those corporate settings, even if you would like to do those one-on-one talks. So it saves you time. It helps you actually give your unique message. So I'm going to take everyone here into our Facebook community today. In our Facebook community, we have just under 100 doctors in that who are on the TCP podcast program. And I want you to see the interaction that's going on there because it is amazing. We are, again, a community. It's so cool. Wouldn't you agree, Dr. Karen?
Absolutely. And I think the community is the part that people don't really understand. So maybe, hopefully by showing this, they'll kind of get a little bit of a better idea of how valuable that it is to bounce ideas off. What do you think of my artwork? What do you think of this doctorate? Asking those that have been podcasting for a few months or myself or Ed is worth it itself in the program. But the Facebook group is awesome. We've got a really good group there.
We're also going to talk about educating your practice members. How important, Doc, is it to educate your patients or practice members? Not only that, is how important is it to continually add value to them, right? So that they are seeing themselves as your office. You are unique. You add value. You are the doctor with the podcast that is in their back pocket. Because 50 or 60% of the people who listen to podcasts, it might even be higher. I'll look at that stat in a moment. They are listening to your podcast on their mobile phone or in their vehicle. So Apple iPlay is actually going to be installed in all 2006 manufactured vehicles. Imagine that, doctor. Your patient is driving to work and they're listening to your voice. So it's no longer that you're sending out a letter, a thank you note, that you're waiting for them to come into your office to connect with them, an email. Now you actually have them subscribe to your podcast. They are walking around with you on their mobile every day. You're an arm's length away, doctor, from your patients. That's the power of podcasting. So there's the Audio Technica. Again, everyone who enrolls today, I'm going to send that over to you. Does anyone know who this guy is, Dr. Karen? Do you recognize this guy?
You mean BJ? I don't know who the other dude is, but that's BJ.
So BJ Palmer knew the power of, I think he was the first chiropractic broadcaster, right? So this is not an entirely new concept. What is the new concept is the innovation. So now it is easier for anyone in the world to create their own broadcast and to get it to 550 million subscribers on iTunes. Now, When I say a subscriber, that means people who actually go into iTunes and listen to podcasts at least 1 or 2 times on a monthly basis. Now, when they subscribe as well to your podcast, it means that your podcast, every time you create a new one, it is uploaded onto their mobile phone or into their vehicle automatically as soon as you create a podcast. So this is what a podcast is. It's an audio file, a broadcast that is on iTunes Radio, which is free, okay, or Stitcher Radio. And there's more platforms that are being created, and people are accessing them, and it continues to grow every year. So who cares? Let me go into a few of the stats on why you should care about this. Okay, who is listening to podcasts? You can see that more and more people every year are listening to podcasts. It is the mainstream way to educate and market within your practice, okay? And to add value to those people. Just like 10 years ago, you had to have a website, you need to have a podcast doctor. So it's very powerful. But one of the main things that we're seeing is that when people are listening, again, they're on their mobile phone, you're walking around with that, with them, again, just an arm's length away, and they are very educated. So if we look at Edison Research, the people who are listening to podcasts, most of them have actually a college degree. Not only that is that they find that they have 6-figure incomes. I mean, doctor, we're talking about, these are your ideal clients. Now, let's say that you're maybe a coach or a chiropractic coach or a lifestyle coach, or you have some other sort of program. I mean, these again are your ideal clients that you want to create your podcast for. Because maybe someone's listening today and they're thinking, well, I don't necessarily want to create this for my patients. Maybe you want to create it for something that something else that you're very passionate about. I don't know, maybe gardening. It could be anything, curling if you're a Canadian.
That'd be a really boring. I shouldn't say that. There could be some curlers. I don't want to offend anybody. However, there is a podcast for everything out there. It's a good example.
It is a good example. This is why you should be podcasting. Again, this is from Edison Research. Podcasting continues to grow. It's actually just almost surpassing AM/FM radio listenership. So huge. And again, no time has there ever been such an easy, it's very high tech, but it's very easy to get into this market. And there's a reason why iTunes loves podcasting. And why is because people who go into iTunes store and listen to the podcasts, which are free, they tend to start looking around. So they go and they buy books, they go and they buy videos, they go and they buy music. So this is why it will always be free with iTunes as well. All right, Dr. Karen, let's talk about content, because this is the biggest question I get, or one of the biggest questions is, okay, Dr. Ed, I see all the value here. Now, where the heck am I going to get the content for a weekly podcast? Can you share on that?
I would love to. So I don't know if you ever shared this yet, but we had wanted to do a podcast together on an online program that we created about exercise, nutrition, and chiropractic and purpose. It never really came together. So we kind of branched out into separate ways. And so my concern was, and maybe this is for doctors that are listening as well too, is like, oh geez, how am I going to get guests? It seems like a lot of work to do that and schedule it. And I got to edit things. Like, isn't there an easier way? And I was listening to a podcast, and I don't remember which one it was. And they talked about how they repurposed their blogs and they essentially made those into podcast episodes. And I was like light bulb, I'm like, holy crap, I have all these blogs. I could do something with them. I could literally freaking just read my blogs and put a little something at the beginning, at the end, and maybe some kind of an action step, and I would be good to go. So it was kind of from then forward, at the end of May of last year, I kind of said, okay, I'm going to do this podcast. Here's what I can do. And that's how I got started. And so it was a way for me to take content I already had and then actually put it into a podcast episode. So it was an easy place to start. So if anyone currently has a blog, this is a no-brainer. It is easy to start that way. Do you want me to share a little bit more, Dr. Ed, like how I do it, or?
I think also one of the good points would be that you had mentioned something about, you have your written blog, but you also have your podcast. So it's almost like because both are very powerful for SEO or search engine optimization. And some people like to consume information via written words. Some people like to hear it via audio. Yeah,
what I basically did is, so I had the blogs already on our office website, is I changed them up just a little bit, like change the title, change the intro or a little bit the ending or something like that. And then I had them as both, and I still have done this up until recently, is would have it as a blog post on my Mom at 41 website, and then I would have it as a podcast episode. So I would literally sit down, have a little bit of an intro. I would then read the blog post. Now, it was my words. So I know I've had people say like, oh my God, you read those? It seems like you're just talking. So it doesn't have to sound like scripty or anything like that. You're reading it. If you want to practice a few times, you can, but I just read it. And I would maybe ad lib and add a few parts here and there. And then I would have my end, and I would have my call to action of either they would have what I do with Mom at 41, what's called a Mama Action Step. So to give them something they can do and not just kind of listen and feel good and go, this is great, and have some kind of emotional response, but actually do something with it. And also to subscribe to my newsletter, to subscribe to the podcast, to rate and review. So I give them that call to action at the end. But then, I also had as a blog post. And on the blog post, I would have a little, click here if you'd like to listen to this episode on the podcast. On the podcast show notes page, I had a link saying, click here if you'd like to read this as a blog post. So that way, whichever way people wanted to consume it, written or audio, they had the option of both. And it was easy. Like I had a lot of blog posts. So I went through and I created a list. I'm like, okay, what are the most popular ones? Which ones do I kind of resonate with the most? And I just started going from there. And so my first, I think it was my first 24 episodes, because I think I just recorded 108. So my first 24 were strictly blog posts. And I had no intention of doing guests. I mean, I thought, well, maybe at some point I'll do a guest episode. But, and then I did after that. But there's a lot of power in that. And don't think also, too, for those that are listening right now to the webinar, that somehow a guest interview is better. I have a lot of my Mom at 41 listeners that say they actually prefer often the ones that are just me talking and sharing a story. So so it was an easy way to get started. And then from there, I did all the creation stuff, and then everything that you've now created with this podcast training program, Ed.
And I'm going to just share a really quick story of a challenge that I encountered this week, which was, I believe it was on Monday. No, I'm sorry. Was that last week, Dr. Karen, that someone cracked into my website? That was last week, wasn't it? Thursday.
No, dude, it was like a couple days ago, I think.
Oh, I'm so out of it. Okay.
Like Wednesday, yeah.
Okay, so I have multiple sites for Dr. Ed Osborne, for the Chiropractic Philanthropist, for TCP Podcast Training. And some of them are hosted by GoDaddy, for example. And what happened was someone, a group had actually found a crack into my website. And what they did is they just went in and they inserted a piece of code of a hidden banner onto one of my, actually two or three of my websites. Now, here's the thing, Doc, who's listening to this right now. Do you know why they did that? This is straight from GoDaddy tech support. They said, because my search engine optimization is so high with Google, because they go, oh, because you have a podcast, it's so high. That's why they want into your site. Because what they were doing is they insert that code so they could hijack my SEO ratings, which means anytime someone searches Dr. Ed Osborne, anytime someone searched the Chiropractic Philanthropist, their website would show up along with my SEO. So they were kind of like piggybacking on my SEO. Don't worry, everything's completely secured, okay? But I wanted to use that as an example of how powerful and how Google is ranking podcast feeds. And that's why you know, on this image that I'm showing you here for podcast content, Karen is, brilliantly, she has her blog, she has her podcast, and she's driving people to her website. So with her podcast, she's building an audience, then she drives them to her website to listen, to read her content, and then to sign up for her newsletter as well. And that's exactly actually what I do. To be honest with you, Doc, my whole purpose is to drive people to my the Chiropractic Philanthropist website, to listen to the podcast, sign up for one of my lists. Now, the reason I do that is because now I have their email and I can communicate with them. So then I provide them more value. Like maybe I just email my podcast to them. So this is one of the ways that I've actually built a very large contact list or email list with doctors in a very short time, actually in about 6 or 7 months. And I'm actually going to be teaching a webinar just on those, they call them funnels, just on that and what I've learned from that on Thursday this week. So if you want to jump on that, I can show you how to do that. So I just wanted to show you this, also with Dr. Karen, she brilliantly has here in the author section, instead of just having her name, Dr. Karen Osborne, she has inspiring interviews with podcast experts, Deborah Tillman, Josh Shipp, Carl Honore, So really, what's happening here is that every time someone searches one of these names on iTunes, now her podcast will show up as well. That's how you're increasing your expertise. You're positioning yourself next to someone like Josh Shipp, who's had an actual reality show. Like this is the way that it's done. I love all the explicit ratings on your podcast there, Dr. Karen.
Yeah, I've been dropping some F-bombs recently on my solos. It's great. Actually, it feels wonderful. Yeah.
Well, but it's a great point. Podcasting, there's no rules. Okay. You can that's maybe one of the rules, put an explicit on it. But the point is it's a unique expression of you. You create your own expression of chiropractic. There's no one giving you a script. There's no one saying, this is the way it should be done. It's all you. And that's why you build your following, because those people who listen to your podcast and follow you, they are basically, they're there because it's you. It's real. It's authentic. There's nothing coercive about it. All right. So here's content. So everyone probably, if you've heard of the Chiropractic Philanthropist podcast, and by the way, I had 0 listeners, 0 experience when I started this in August last year. And I didn't know anyone. Okay. I didn't know anyone in our profession. Maybe just a couple guys down the street. But within 3 months, like I said, I was actually, I think within 5 months, I was on a phone call with Jack Canfield, Nick Ortner, like these celebrities who, if you told me 5 or 6 months before I would be talking to someone like, Grant Cardone, I would have said, you're freaking crazy. No way. I mean, my heart just jumped out of my chest when I got that email. Now, I have taken a lot of time and done a lot of work. And what I've done is this is actually a screen capture of inside my program. It's all the forms, emails, and agreements that I have. So I have sponsorship letters, how I actually monetize my podcast. I have the confirmation emails, everything I basically give to you, my trustworthy graphics on Fiverr to save you money. But the biggest one I want you to see here is you can actually see exactly the emails that I used to get these people onto TCP Podcast, and you can repurpose them and use them to get your guests. So this is the other way that you can get content. A lot of doctors come to me and say, Dr. Ed, there's no way I can ever get guests for my podcast. You'd be surprised how easy it is. Okay. And I've tested it.
Sorry, Ed, can I just interject something? So my first guest, who was kind of at the top of when Ed showed my iTunes page, his name is Josh Shipp. And so I had heard Josh on a podcast about a year or two prior to him sending me an email. So he is a teen expert. They call him the Teen Whisperer. He's had a TV show. He has numerous books. He's a huge, huge speaker, very big in the kind of parenting world. And so he actually sent me an email, which was crazy, saying, hey, I saw, because his podcast launched around the same time as mine. So we were both at the top of the family and kids category, new noteworthy in iTunes. So he sent me an email saying, hey, I saw your podcast, great work. If you're ever thinking of being a guest, I'd love to help you out. And I got it. I was like, what? Holy crap. Okay. Yes. And so that's how I went from then doing solo to guest. And so you might even have some that just see you and find you and want to come on your podcast.
Absolutely. And again, for me, it's just my personality that I like to interview people. Dr. Karen has that unique ability that she can sit down and read a blog and it sounds very natural. She's a very good writer. I find I can actually do an interview and I'm just kind of a pragmatic guy. So I'll go through my list of questions and just get people to open up. And that's kind of my superpower. Dr. Karen's is a little different, but this is something also that I want to stress for doctors who are listening today, because at the end of the day, podcasts are fun. They're creative. They're a new expression of you and your office, and they are all about building your following and audience. Okay. It's different marketing today. Okay. It's not like when you go and you sit down and do a screening on the weekend anymore and you book 100 new people to come into your office and you screen, the 80 of them and then, 10 of them start care. This isn't the way it's done anymore. And I was listening to a webinar the other day of a multi-millionaire, and he was saying, look at today in marketing, you need to create an audience and a following, give them value. So create an audience and a following. That is podcasting at its core. Create a following. Okay. And then give them value, which is the content of your podcast. And then he goes, essentially sell them a product. So your product, doctor, I would suggest to you is chiropractic, and it's our message. And that's how it's done. Now those people are going to be either looking you up locally, so where you are, and we can, again, in Libsyn, I would tweak the SEO so you would show up on Google in your local area. But more importantly too, let's face it, Doc, we got to get out of the 5% of the population, or, the 5% marginalization as chiropractors that we're only seeing in the population. This is bigger. I mean, when you have someone who's going to be, imagine that, emailing you and saying, you know what, I am so happy that I heard your podcast today, Doc. They're in China or Hong Kong or something like that, because this happens to me every day. I get these emails about how I really helped someone and how it changed their life, or it was a message that they really needed to hear in that day. I had a doc from Turkey the other day. He's one of 700 chiropractors in the world, or in Turkey, and he was just like, I feel so isolated. So things like that, you make that unique connection. And I know, Dr. Karen, you've even had experiences like that where people are emailing you and telling you how thankful they are.
Yeah, I had actually been away a week, actually for a couple of days, from you and the boys to a seminar down in LA, and left. And I was like, it was about writing a book. I'm like, who the hell am I to write a book? I can't do this. And it's going through the whole imposter syndrome. And then I open up my phone and I hop onto Instagram, and someone messaged me and said, hey, I'm a listener from Italy. I love your podcast. I share it with all my English speaking friends, because of course she's in Italy. And I just want to let you know, I thank you so much. And I was literally like looking at this, because it came at such a perfect moment where I just almost started bawling on the plane. I mean, people are going to think I'm nuts sitting here. But those are people that connect with you. You don't know how many are just on the sidelines, man. They're there listening, and you are affecting and absolutely changing their life.
Yes, absolutely. And again, it's about getting those connections and building relationships, and then, basically maintaining those relationships and adding value. And, one of the things, like, let's take a look here. I mean, this is actually podcast. This is new and noteworthy in iTunes. And so you can see here, we have 5 TCP podcast graduates who are at the very top of new and noteworthy in health. And that is so powerful. Look at what this is doing, not just for their office and their, basically their celeb-like status and upping their authority, but it's also, really helping our profession. Now, not only that so now they are at the top of new and noteworthy, because we have a 5-step formula for getting docs there. And we're going to talk about how we do that just give you a few of those in a minute or two. But what it is now that they have these, if they want to market their podcast, they will simply email that podcast to their existing practice member base. Okay, so you have their emails and you send them that value, right? They can listen to your voice in between every week or every 2 weeks that they come in for a checkup. Or we all have those patients who disappear for 6 months. You can still send them your voice. You can have that intimate connection with them. Now, the other way that you can market it is you can even SMS these. I mean, the text rate, the open rate, is like 98%. So if you texted the URL for your podcast to a patient, they will actually open that, and it instantly starts playing, and they start hearing your voice. So these are the ways that you can market your podcast. There's other ways too that we can discuss, but really what it is about also placing it on your website so that it increases your search engine optimization. So when people are searching you in that given area, so like if they search Tulsa Chiropractor, your website shows up possibly. But not only that, your podcast shows up. They click on it, they listen to your voice, then from there they link to your website. Okay, or maybe your podcast, which is even more valuable, your podcast is posted and cataloged on your website, so they listen to you and they're on your website, they're looking around, and possibly they call and book an appointment time. And you would always, again, even on your podcast, you would have a strong call to action. So those people would constantly be hearing your voice and saying, give us a call if we can help you with, whatever it might be that your given theme is on that day.
And if I can add then too, Doctor, when people find your podcast, they start binge listening.
Yes.
You'll see it in your Libsyn stats. You'll see that there'll be 5 of an episode, 5 of the next, 5 of the next. So you'll see that it's like, different people that have popped on, probably 500 people. They found an episode, They loved it. They found it in all the different ways that it talks about to market it. And then from there, when they hear your voice, when it's just your voice in their earbuds or driving in the car, there's an intimacy that's created where they feel like they know you. And when people feel like they know you, they feel like they can trust you, they feel like you're going to care. Those are going to be ones that they want to pick up the phone of all the chiropractors in your area, and you then would be thinking, these are the ones, or this is the one that I want to go see and check out.
Yes. And it's interesting too to me is, because I'm a chiropractor and I love numbers. I measure ROI on everything. Don't we, Dr. Karen?
Yes, we do.
We measure ROI in our office. Here's the thing though, it's getting more and more challenging every day to measure ROI because people nowadays are touching multiple things before they come into your office. Oh, I heard your podcast. I saw you on AM radio, or I heard you on AM radio, or I read your article in the newspaper. I visited your website. So it's really difficult. We used to just go, okay, well, it has to be the last thing they touched before they came in the office. But people are, these days, they're just really, they're just sponges for everything that you offer before they make a decision to actually call or book a time. So this is one of the main advantages of podcasting as well, is that you have that, again, as Karen said, that intimate connection, because your voice is 60 times more powerful than any website. So you can go on and they can look at your bio. I always go onto doctors' websites. I look at the about page. I read about the doctors. That's to me, I want to learn more about them. But imagine when they can hear your voice and they can hear about your expert, they think of you as that expert as well. Or if you can position yourself like next to other experts in the community, because that's an amazing thing too about podcasting. Let's say there's a local fitness expert in your community and you interview them on your podcast. So it's Joe Fitness and you interview him. If you have his name in the title of your podcast, every time someone searches Joe Fitness in that area, your podcast shows up. So people aren't searching you necessarily, searching chiropractic. They could be searching other people, and that your podcast will show up and they will learn about you. So philanthropist, my whole story, I'm going to give you this in a nutshell. Okay. I had a rockin' busy practice with my wife, Dr. K. We built this practice from scratch, and our dream was to have the family practice. And it was our dream. We built it from scratch. The thing was, right at the pinnacle of the time that we were incredibly smoking busy, I got sick. Okay. And when I got sick, the more I tried to actually insert myself back into practice after having surgery and going through all these difficult situations with my own health, I found it very challenging to get back into practicing at the intensity that I was doing before. And it was difficult for me because practice for me was all about connection. It was about being able to help people heal with my hands. And yet I love chiropractic so much, and I still wanted to be part of that. So what I did was, that's where the impetus of the Chiropractic Philanthropist came. And that was about giving back, but connecting on a different level. And that was actually with my fellow chiropractors instead of patients on a daily basis. And it's really been a dream come true. Because I tell you, Doc, I mean, if you can imagine yourself at the top of iTunes, if you can imagine your podcast out there, your audio, your voice, you can see that, you can start to build relationships. You can build that authority. You can connect with other people in your community on a way that you've never imagined before. You can see again, I mean, my website alone, by using my podcast, I get 4,500 unique visits from doctors each month. I've been on the phone with John DeMartini, all these different amazing people, David Allen, John Gray. I mean, it's really a dream come true for me. But I want you to think about it, Doc. I mean, it took me only 3 months to do this. There's docs out there who have been building their authority in our community, our profession, I should say, for 15, 20, 30 years. Okay, you can do it in a very short time. It's an incredible tool to do that, and do it on a local basis within your own community. It doesn't have to be within our profession. So yeah, I get these emails all the time. Dr. Osborne, connecting with you has been a blessing. This is from Dr. Rios. He says, I have very much appreciated all you are doing for the profession. And you can see that people really think, or doctors really see, that you have incredible value you're adding with your podcast. Okay. Just like if you were to write a blog like Dr. Karen does, but now again, you're having that different connection using your voice. So imagine yourself, Doc, getting these emails every day. How inspiring is that? All right, so let's go and talk a little bit about your podcast and developing it so that you can actually market it in a way that is authentic to you. So, Dr. Karen, I mean, wouldn't you agree that passion has to be the key to your podcast?
Absolutely. Passion is going to drive everything, right? If you're not really excited about doing it, when it's maybe, you've had a busy day in practice, if you've got a kid, you're with your kids, and here you're sitting down to edit stuff at 10 o'clock at night. If you don't have passion, what the hell is going to drive you? Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it really comes down to defining, and we always do this, and we'll go into our, what, I'm going to share it right now. I want to go and actually jump to my Facebook page, the community. So let's see if I can do this real quick. Okay, everyone see me? All right.
Yep.
And okay. So we're going to jump to the Facebook community, and this is something that no one ever sees except people in our group in TCP.
Like there should be like you're opening up the covenant of the ark. Like there's smoke that comes off.
I'll show you, but I have to hunt you down and kill you after. All right, so you can see we have 94 members. Now, here's the thing: not everyone is on Facebook that has joined TCP, by the way. So we'd probably have over 100 now. I'm certain of that. But you can see that what we do in this closed group, and you have to be a member to get in here and be part of this community. So here's Dr. Jason Jones. He's absolutely crushing it in North Carolina. Here's his new podcast he's just released. He places it actually here on our page. We will share it with our own community, and we also will go in, we rate and we review each other's podcasts as well, honestly. And that helps us actually get to the top of iTunes New and Noteworthy. So that is one of the key elements as well of getting to the part of top of New and Noteworthy on iTunes. And you have 8 weeks after you put out your first podcast to get in there and stay there. So great episode here from Dr. Jason. You can see here's Dr. Nancy Tarlow, and she's just coming out with her production. She'll be up and running within a week likely, because she has part of my accelerator program. So I'm going to get her all set up. But you can see here that she's put up 3 different artworks for her podcast, and you can see we've all actually commented on that. So Dr. Karen has put in her couple cents, me too. And this is what we do to make sure that, again, another secret to getting to the top of iTunes is actually they place you at the top based on aesthetic. So they'll manually put you there based on how your artwork looks too. So this is such an important key element. We give tons of feedback and make sure that everyone gets to the top. Here's another one with Dr. Hansen. He's just working on his artwork, and we've all had some feedback. Dr. DePrez. Let's see here. And then we also have updates that we include as well. Anything that changes, because podcasting is constantly changing. So the lifetime membership with TCP allows you to get you get all of the updates as things change. So for example, with the recording software on GarageBand, everything changed. There was an update. I had to actually go in. I didn't have to, but I went in, I created all new video tutorials on how you could do that in a simple, easy way. You can see here too that I've included, we're developing what's called a TCP Podcast Page. So everyone who's a graduate of TCP Podcast Training are all listed on this page. People can go there. Those 4,500 doctors who are going and visiting my site can go in here, click on your podcast and find you and just listen to your podcast, subscribe. And that helps up your SEO as more people are listening. Dr. Carey here making a joke. So you should be shirtless, Dr. Ed, on that. Lots of different things here. So lots of little tips we add. So again, this is the way that we communicate with each other. This is the way that we spread the message. And I'm going to just head back to the slides here for a sec. Oh, let's see.
Meantime, people can see our basement.
Yay, and our upstairs. Dr. Karen is upstairs.
Yep.
I'm so glad our dogs aren't barking. How's that look, Dr.
Dude,
Kate?
I don't know how they're not barking. Perfect. Perfect.
Okay. So when we talk about avatar, that's simply about, once you know what you're passionate about and you want to talk about on your podcast, create your avatar. Your avatar is not your demographic. It's not like, females 30 to 60 with 2 kids. This is actually who you speak to. When in podcasting, we talk about speaking to one, but talking to many. So that means that you choose that one person. So, it's Joe Chiropractic. He's 34. He hates his job. He's 15 pounds overweight. Get really specific. His daughter's name is Sarah. She's, get really, really specific. And that way, that every time that you create a podcast, you think about, well, what would that avatar, what would that Joe Chiropractic, what would he want to hear? What would he want to listen to? And trust me, it seems a little silly at first, but when you write this down and you manifest that and you talk to that person every time you get on the air, I mean, even on this webinar, it's tough for me sometimes to just imagine that I'm talking to, 15, 20 or 30 docs at a time. So that helps actually with not only creating your podcast and the content, but it also helps with the listenership.
Yeah, so I would say, if I can add to that then too, sure. Dr. Ed. So that for me was key when I was doing solo episodes, because it's like me sitting down in the basement talking to myself. So it was even more of a importance, if you will, to really understand who your audience is and who that person, that avatar, I should say, is, so that when I would sit there and record, I literally would see myself sitting in front of that particular woman, like over coffee, talking to her. And it makes a difference. It's going to sound different when it comes out that way and people listen to the episode.
Absolutely. So I think we've answered, how people get the content. I think we've answered, what is the value of a podcast? Like, what is a podcast? So we've answered that. And, really the last thing is, how difficult is it to actually get started? And it's really not that tough. I mean, there's a little bit of elbow grease at the start, and I'm not going to lie to you. And there's a little bit of time that's created in terms of coming up with your recording. But here's the thing: the podcasts are evergreen. So when was the last time you went to a room and spoke to 200 people in a day, and then that same talk that you had or lecture was out there for everyone to listen to every day for infinity? So that if you even if you had only 50, which is really low, but even if you had only 50 people listening to your podcast every day, then I mean, that's still 50 people who you were connecting with that you wouldn't have connected with before. And you didn't really have to do anything else, like pack up, your slides and pack up all of your information and go and do a lecture or workshop. Not that I'm saying there's not value in those, but you can do this in addition. So when you're looking at podcasting, come up with something that's creative about your passion, come up with something that's, what your podcast is about should be in the name. So the Chiropractic Philanthropist, I actually considered chiropractic charity. But it sounded really silly.
God, I don't remember that one.
I should show the first artwork.
Yeah.
You remember the first artwork I had? My first artwork was like a picture of a guy smoking a pipe. It was like yeah, it was horrible. Oh, horrible.
I think I've blocked it out. It was so bad.
It was so bad.
Yeah.
So there's a process of creation, but it's fun too. Think about who you want to speak to. And when it comes down to artwork, it's really simple. I give you, and like I said, we go through the Facebook community. We give you you go to Fiverr, it costs you $10, $15 to get your artwork made up. Even my artwork, I'm going to revamp it and I'm going to put it out there again in about, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks. Do you have your headphones on, Dr. K?
I do.
I'm getting a reverb. Okay.
So sorry.
So new and noteworthy, again, that is basically the 8 weeks. Once you launch your podcast, you can get to the very top of iTunes, where you have that opportunity. We get you there. And I think we just had a doc launch last week and he's already in the top 10. We have also Taylor Smith with chiropractic strategies. Or marketing strategies, it's called, and he was actually number 2 in new and noteworthy. So really high up there. Amazing job. And again, we always go through the feedback, and that's what the Facebook page is for, and we share. Here's the big thing too. Right now you're probably thinking, Doc, this is too much. I can't handle it. Okay. This is my son and I actually, when we tried to build a snowman the other year, and it was horrible. It was not good. you remember that?
Yeah, this is a big blob.
It was, but you know what? He didn't care. He loved it. And my point is, don't get paralyzed. I'm going to take out most of the challenges for you, such as getting you set up on Libsyn, which seems to be the biggest block. We're all as a community going to help promote you. We're all there to support each other as a community. And that's the real value in what we do here at TCP Podcast Training. So don't get paralyzed. Just, better done and good than perfect and not done. All right. Biggest other question I get is, Dr. Ed, what do we use? What am I going to have to invest for resources? Okay, microphone. I usually recommend one of two. So we have the Audio-Technica ATR 2100. That's what I'm using today, and I always use. It's included when you enroll in the program, but if you search it on Amazon, you'll find it. The Blue Yeti is a little bit more expensive. I don't recommend it. I've actually had a few people who have purchased it and then actually went on to get the Audio-Technica. So it looks cool, but I think the Audio-Technica, even though it's less expensive, is a better value and a better mic. Headphones, $20. Boom. You do need I do recommend a boom or a stand, and the boom or stand is basically like what I'm using today. These are very inexpensive. A pop filter basically takes out the vibrations, the clicks, the pops, the wind noise from your voice. So it sounds more professional. Those are about $15. Can you mute your mic, Dr. K?
I sure can.
Thank you. Okay, and so the pop filter. So basically the pop filter, the arm, basically the arm is there basically so that you can have an equal distance from the microphone, which is so important. The reason that we do that is, like, if I move away from my microphone right now, you can see how the sound changes. People will listen and subscribe to your podcast based on audio quality, obviously. So we want the best quality possible. And these are really simple ways that you can do it. This is, I think it was 10, maybe $25 on Amazon. The recording and editing software, I mean, GarageBand comes on iTunes. Dr. K, is your mic on?
You mean on Apple? I just turned it back on so I could talk.
Oh, okay.
Did I boot it out? What did I do?
No, I hear a reverb. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you said GarageBand is on iTunes. You mean on Mac, on Apple?
Okay.
Yep.
So the can you mute your mic one more time?
Okay.
Because the screen share switches too.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so GarageBand, yeah, it's free. It's on Apple, as Dr. K mentioned. Audacity is for PC or Mac, and it's, again, free editing software. So these are both, there's no investment. iTunes accounts for tagging those or like emblazing your podcast with your artwork and title. I mean, that's, again, free. It's on iTunes software when you sign up for an iTunes account. And actually, I do all the ID3 tagging when people sign up. So I actually do that for their first episode if need be. So here's essentially how a podcast works. So as a summary, I have an audio file that I create, which is my podcast. I do that on my laptop through an interview. I put it onto Libsyn, which is basically an off-site podcast host that is $15 a month to store your information, your audios. From there, it is, as soon as I put my podcast onto Libsyn, it is automatically uploaded onto iTunes. It is automatically uploaded onto my SoundCloud account and to Stitcher. The only one I pay for out of these three is SoundCloud, and that's only because I have a lot of content coming out, and I think it's about $10 a month. From there, doctors can actually download my podcast. So I will send it to them via email. I will send it, they can visit my website. They can go to LinkedIn. It's connected to that too, to Twitter, to Facebook. I can text it to you. I put it on YouTube, Instagram. So I want you to imagine your office doc. Here's how you market this. You put your podcast onto Libsyn. It goes to iTunes for the 550 million people to subscribe to and to possibly listen to. It goes to SoundCloud, equally high subscriber. Stitcher. All of these platforms are going to be in all the vehicles in 2016. They're in mobiles as well. Next, you share your podcast on Vimeo, on YouTube, on Facebook. Now, Doc, you might be thinking, well, I don't have time to do all this. There is social media software that will share all of these for you, such as Hootsuite. And you can actually, and I have tutorials for all of that, but here's the thing, your team can do this in probably about 10 minutes a week, okay? They can actually schedule these to go out. It doesn't take much time at all. So there's tons of ways that you can market your podcast and get it out there. Okay, I'm going to go to another screen share. So again, Doc, don't forget that if you're kind of coming in and out of the program or the webinar, go over to the side. You'll see it of the webinar. In the side, there is a pop-in, and it says limited enrollment. We got about 13 minutes left on the webinar right now, and we're going to take some questions in a moment. But limited enrollment. Click on the add to cart. You can get all those bonuses as well. I'm going to go through all of those bonuses in detail right now. So if you click on the add to cart, you won't be taken out of the webinar. You'll hear my voice still, okay? It should open up another window for you. Okay, I'm just going to go to one more screen share. Hi, everyone. Let's see. And where is it? Here we go. Okay. Can you see that, Dr. Karen?
I just see you.
Oh, you don't see the share? Okay.
No, not yet.
I know. How about?
No, it's still you.
Okay.
There you go.
Hold on. That's not the right one. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay. Trust me, everyone. I'm getting there. Don't worry.
It's almost there.
Okay, it might take a second.
Craps out.
Do you see it?
I just see the screen is black right now. Now I see the TCP Podcast Training. Which says warning TCP membership, that one? Okay.
You got it. All right. So if you can go ahead and mute your mic there, Dr. Carey. It looks like it's screen sharing.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So this is basically the entire enrollment page for everyone. If you look through here, you can actually see there's a video. It's a 21-minute video. It covers a lot of what we just covered now today. The modules that we have in the training, the first module is all about the creative. We show you how to create your podcast. We cover in depth. None of the webinars or I should say the tutorials that we have are any longer than say 6 minutes at the most. They're really like, I'm just no fluff. Okay. That's just the way I am. Very pragmatic. I give you everything I use to create my podcast, to monetize it, to make money from that podcast as well. So then on the second module, we go through all the technology. Now, I'm going to take out a lot of this for you just simply because I'm going to set up your Libsyn account for you. And I am also going to get you submitted to iTunes and Stitcher for anyone who enrolls today. So that is, again, just in itself, that is that's a $400 value. Okay, business and marketing. So we don't just get you started and then we leave you hanging, okay? We show you actually how to market your podcast. There's a full module on marketing your podcast, on the business of podcasting. Some doctors want to actually create maybe like an online program that they can sell to people, like to patients, not just about attracting new people to their office. And this is what we talk about, making money while you sleep. So, even from my podcast, believe it or not, I generate a lot of income from my podcast. I got an email the other day from a doctor who I helped out, and they're going to be writing me a very big check in about 30 days. So you can do this too, Doc. If I can do it, I had no experience, you can do it, okay? So here's some testimonials that you can go through. Again, if you're clicking on that add to cart button, you can go through all this whole page. We have Chris Burfield here, strategic marketer. He's got his podcast out there, which is Market from the Heart. Dr. Carey, big heart, that man, he's amazing. He launched, I'm so proud of him. He launched Sig Talks. And that that podcast is just crushing it. I remember being, texting back and forth with him at 2 a.m, lying in bed, trying to think of ideas or thinking of ideas of how we could create his podcast and really continue the legacy of Jim Sigafus. And I think he's done that wonderfully. I'm so proud of just being a small part of that and helping him get his podcast up and running. We got Dr. Joe Criscola with his Health Hero podcast. Dr. Hudak is killing it. He's crushing it. I see his podcast out there all the time. He was up and launched in 10 days. So if you got the time, you can definitely, fire through it really quickly. Dr. Jason Jones, amazing consistency. He's seeing, some of the guests I haven't even been able to get on, he's had on his show. I haven't even been able to get the same guest quality of guests he's had. So he says this training is a 10 out of 10. It's very easy to do. Dr. Tabor Smith with Genesis Chiropractic Software, he's helping them out with the podcast, which is Chiropractic Strategic Strategies, or I should say marketing. True Health with Dr. Kyle Gullidge just came out this week. I was listening to this podcast this week, and wow, I cannot believe how good some of these people are. They're making, they're standing on my shoulders. I love it. Okay. So yeah, you hear some of the people at the top of New and Noteworthy, you could see here, and that's where you get your real, start to build your real listenership. So here's the bonuses, and let's go through these. So it says $14.84. It's actually more than that because I'm throwing in the mic as well with that. So here's what you get. You basically get my Common Sense ROF system. Now, I'm getting amazing feedback. I've had over 300 doctors actually jump on and purchase this program itself. And it's really easy. It's about how you can actually communicate with your patients in a way that is not coercive, that you don't feel like you're reading scripts all the time, although I do give you my scripts, but I want you to personalize them. And it's incredible video tutorials on how I built my family practice. And those people convert right into wellness care as well, if that's what you're looking for. $297 value, it's yours included when you sign up with TCP Podcast Training. I have my creating Facebook ads funnel. So I have had docs email me, Dr. Ed, how do you create ads on Facebook? And so what I did is I said, well, why don't I just put video tutorials together? So this is the quickest way you can build actually your Facebook fan page. You can actually advertise or display on Facebook and sponsor your podcast as well. Any videos, I give you all the secrets so that you can either do it free or save a lot of money doing it. And I've made all the mistakes, spent all the money, and had all the failures. So I learned how to do this very efficiently. It's yours, and I give it to you. It's $197 value with the program today. Here's the accelerator program. So this is exclusive. This is only today. Okay, it's a $400 value, and this is only for people who sign up right now. This basically, I will do full setup of that Libsyn account for you. I will tweak it for SEO perfection, I call it. I will get you submitted for approval on iTunes and Stitcher, and I will give you guidance on how to get to, personal guidance on how to get to the top of iTunes New and Noteworthy, and certainly make sure that we're sharing your podcast as well. This is the fastest way to get up and running. We call it the Accelerator Program. And this is the first time I've ever included that. Last bonus, I know, bonus after bonus. Last bonus is I am coming up with a new program. It's called TCP Video Podcast Training. No, do not underestimate the power of iTunes video podcasting. Okay, this, you know what the number one video podcast is right now is actually TEDx, or TED Talks, I should say. So TED Talks, you could actually get yourself, because it's so new, you can get yourself positioned right up there at the top of iTunes video podcasting with them. My TV show is coming out in the next 2 weeks, and what I've done is created tutorials on how I did it, and I guarantee I'm going to get at the top of iTunes when I come out. So this is new, it's innovative, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to include that for you. It's $590 value. Now, not only that, but you can take these videos and you can repurpose them onto your YouTube channel, because YouTube is still king. Now, and of course, we're going to fire off that mic to anyone who signs up today. So there's a couple options you can do. If you click on the one-time investment, it's $725 for the program. We do have a 30-day money-back, 100% risk-free guarantee. I got to be honest with you. Nobody ever refunds on this program. It is solid, okay? We have a community, and nobody ever has a challenge with any of what we just all come together and help each other out. We have and it's a lifetime access, by the way. So you get all the updates, you get the lifetime access. We are going to be moving to a membership subscription. So soon it will be monthly, probably starting this fall, a monthly fee for any new subscribers to the program as we start to get over, say, the 150 mark with members. There's a 2-payment option. It works out to 2 installments of $425, or there's a 4-payment option. It works out to 4 installments of $274. So it's really not a huge investment when you think about that. All it really takes is one lifetime. What is one lifetime wellness patient worth to you in your office? I mean, is it worth $725? Probably a lot more than that. So this is actually a really, really low investment when you think about it. I remember sitting down and actually my interview with Janet Switzer, who helped sell 500 million books for Jack Canfield. And she told me when I showed her my program, because I'm like, what do you think of this? Like, you get someone like that on the phone, you talk to them. And I said, what do you think of this? And she goes, it's not scalable. She goes, you're not charging enough. I go, well, what would you suggest? She's like, 3,000. I'm like, you're crazy. She's like, no, that's not enough. So the program, I think, for the value, I think it's there. And if you want to be part of our group, I would love to have you and support you. And I would be so excited to have you on the TCP Podcast Train. So I get about 3 or 4 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, and we're going to answer some questions. So if anyone's still on the line there, Dr. Karen.
Yeah, I just kind of posted up saying last call for questions. I want to actually also to invite or just to acknowledge Sandra. She just wanted to join the TCP family. So super excited for you, Sandra. And if there's any other questions, now is the time. And if you type them in, I'll just basically read them to Ed here live and we can get them answered. I think Ed, you went through tons of stuff and lots of good information, maybe answered a lot of questions that people already had. But if there's any other ones, like people had some questions about what's the difference between Audacity and Adobe and GarageBand, which you talked about. They asked if you need a mic, which you talked about as well too. Question I had then too from Sandra, although she's kind of said, all right, that's it, I'm jumping in, is kind of, you talked about this a little bit too. It's like, what's the ROI and what's your results been and that? And again, the importance and the power in being able to build community and an audience and a tribe with podcasting that is so different than standing there at a screening and talking to one person and hoping that maybe they'll come in the office and get checked. So, I mean, for me, podcasting is just, it's so much fun to be able to expressively, talk about your message. And in this case, obviously, for those that are listening, to be able to talk chiropractic. Yeah,
and I think, am I still screen sharing, Dr. K?
No, it's just you and me. Oh, you were like picking your nose too and everything. I'm just kidding.
So, okay. So, I can give you a really great example of that too. And that is that, I sat down with a new practice member the other day, first time, never met. And I started, I'm going to explain to you what chiropractic is. And she goes, no, you don't worry about it. I know what chiropractic is. I watched all of your videos on your website. It's the same we're seeing with chiropractors who are doing podcasts. You place your podcast on your website. It's the same. They're getting that intimate connection. It's tough to put your finger on that ROI, isn't it? And like I said, I mean, it's kind of like breaking it down to the minutia, to just going, okay, I see the investment, but all it really takes is it's going to be one person, one lifetime, like one person that you change their life and they become that lifetime member in your practice. And I mean, it's really, there's so many different angles on how you can use podcast audio to educate, to retain, to reactivate patients. I mean, get creative, for gosh sakes. Let's say you want to reactivate patients and you have their email, their phone, their cell. Create a podcast on about reactivating, hey, we have this event and we want to, we would love to see you, and send a special message to them, email it, SMS it. There's so many different ways that you can use the podcast.
And I think, gone are the days really too, Ed, of like, I do a talk and then therefore so many show up, so many sign up, so many come in, so many start care. It just doesn't work that way anymore. People don't really connect that way. This is really the future. I say the future. This is the present moment, podcasting and social media and connecting them all together. So like you said, speaking to a group of 50 people or speaking once in your basement with a guest, without, and now that's being broadcast always, so people can keep seeing that. And then they're excited. They don't just sit down and tell their friend over dinner, but, oh, I saw this chiropractor, heard them speak. Now they're actually sharing the episode, putting up on social media, and they've shared it with 2,000 of their Facebook friends. You know, what is the investment there? I mean, that's huge. And you didn't have to go and do any extra work. Yeah. You didn't have to go from those 50 people to the 1,950 other of her friends that she's now shared those with, because she's done it organically for you. And she's now being part of your community. That's huge, huge.
And I mean, here's the thing too. How many times have you had a patient, you come in and it's rocking busy? It's that time between 4 and 5 in the afternoon. And, you know, people are showing up late, people are showing up early, you're smoking busy. And then someone gets off the table and they go, Dr. Ed, I just saw my medic and I was diagnosed with high blood pressure. And you don't, you know, my heart, I just like, I want to help them. I want to sit there and I want to talk to them and consult with them. But in the moment, you can still do that time. Let's set up a private time that we can sit down and discuss this. But in that moment, you can say, hey, can we forward you this amazing audio podcast, this podcast that I did on, you know, controlling your blood sugar, on, you know, getting off of high blood pressure medication, whatever it might be that you've created, you can forward that podcast to them. It's not like handing them a brochure anymore, right? So now they have that, again, they think, you know, they're seeing the value, they see that you care. Not only that, let's say they receive it and they go, oh, this, I got to send this to my friend. So they just simply forward that email. They forward that by that text that you sent them. It's that simple. It's viral, for gosh sakes. And then they're like, hey, check out what my chiropractor is doing. Or they just assume that all chiropractors do this. I mean, it's pretty cool stuff when you think about it.
Yeah, you will absolutely stand out from the crowd when you do these things, right? From when we were blogging, used to do video blogs, and then now into podcasting, you know, you will stand so out of the pack of everyone else that's in your community. It's, you know, it's the way to do it right now. And it's fun. It's fun.
Cool. Any other questions at all for anyone? Any specific questions? I'm going to be jumping on a call, another teleconference call in about a half hour. So I'll stick around for another few minutes.
What else can we talk about podcasting, Ed? Well, I just like saying the word podcasting.
I think the biggest thing for me is, you know, a lot of people just simply don't even, like, docs might be going, well, you know, I may talk to a person in my practice and they go, I don't know what a podcast is. And they go, well, you know, probably maybe 30% of people know what a podcast is, you know, and of those, maybe only half of them have ever listened to one. So a lot of you might be thinking, well, then that's very limited, but it's actually, in fact, it's not. It means that we have incredible potential growth.
And if I can interject too, Ed, that's a great educational opportunity. I've probably had 2 people in the last week that go, what's this podcast thing? I go, give me your phone. I go, what? I go, give me your phone. Swipe it, unlock it. And I go, this is a podcast app, that purple. I go, that's what that is. Push it. I go, we're going to search Mom at 41. And they go, oh my God, that's you. And I'm like, yeah. And they go, holy crap. And then they go, great, let me subscribe you. So I've subscribed to the podcast, and they start listening. And, you know, I had someone actually, because I also teach essential oils class. She came to my class. Actually, I was just, as you had me muted, and I'm like answering questions. Oh, by the way, Sandra said, have a good afternoon. Look forward to working with you. Sandra, awesome. We are so stoked for you. You're going to love podcasting. But I was just checking messages, and she's sending me in her order of stuff. And she goes, by the way, I checked out your podcast. She's like, I love it. You swear. She's like, I like this word too. You know, it's a chance for you to show who you are. Whether, you know, you want to be a little bit more straight-laced, or like me, I'm just kind of an open book. When I podcast now, that vulnerability to me is just who I am. And I can't always do that in the office. I can't always drop an F-bomb with kids around, obviously. But, you know, again, it was just, there was like a different sense of like, oh my God, you have a podcast. It's so cool. But if people don't know what a podcast is, then show them what it is. Show them what it is. Everyone who comes to the office that day, your CA could be like, hey, let me see your phone. They go, what? I go, no, just give me your phone. And they go, by the way, have you seen Dr. So-and-so's podcast? Isn't this cool? Go ahead and subscribe, right? You have a button right on your website. Click and subscribe to the podcast. People will check out that stuff before they decide to come in. So yeah.
You can see on mine, like, I mean, I listened to a podcast this morning before I got on this webinar when I headed to the gym. So these are the 4, and the little red red notification means there's a new podcast to be downloaded. It was already uploaded, like it gives you the notification that there's a new podcast there. It's there every morning that you can actually jump on those. So that's again the power of having your basically in the pocket, the back pocket of all of your patients right now. And not only that, but if I was to click on one of these and I was to look at the show notes, you could actually see that the URL for your my website is there. So the URL for your website doc would be there, and they click on that and their mobile will take you right to your website or to the doctor's website.
Yeah, how about you could have a link on there in show notes too of just like, click here to book an appointment. Maybe you have an online booking system, they can book right there. Or click here to call through to our team so they can take care of you. I mean, that's again, like you said, it's in the palm of their hand.
Free
so why
consultation.
not use the technology that's there? Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that person is just listen to you for the last 20 or 30 minutes, and now they see you in a different light. They see you as an expert. Why would they look up someone else? Why would they go to someone else now that they've heard your voice? They just click on that URL and they go immediately and they set up a consultation with you. They walk in, they think they already feel like they know you. How many times have you heard that, Karen, where people you speak to that have heard your podcast, they think, hey, I already know you. I feel like I know you.
Yeah. Hey, they go, hey, you sound just like you do in your podcast. I'm like, yeah, dude, because that's my voice. Like, I don't put on a voice. People will say to us, like, what's your microphone like? And think it's somehow we have this expensive setup that, like auto-tunes our voice to sound really cool. And the bottom line is it's, it's understanding who you're speaking to, who's your avatar, your purpose, you've passion behind it, you're consistent when you're putting out your episodes, and you have a ton of fun with it, and you will see the results. And it might not be you speak to one person listens to the podcast, and they come in as a new patient, but you will start to build that audience. And believe me, there's people that we've had that have come into the practice, even though Ed's not in the practice, because they've heard the podcast, either Ed's or mine. So it is absolutely happening.
And that's an interesting fact too, is that it's so interesting too how quick you can actually get the results. I've never seen anything like it except for going and doing a screening. Okay. The reason you go and do a screening is you connect with that person on a one-to-one basis. But my gosh, that's a lot of work. I got to set up. I spend my whole, it's a lot of energy. I got to spend my whole weekend at a trade show. It's exhausting. Then I come in to my practice and I'll screen all those people and hopefully, some of them will stick. With the podcast, it's completely different. You teach, you do your podcast one time and then you can market it in so many ways. Plus it's also evergreen. It's out there. So it's a completely different way of thinking about marketing. And it's really inexpensive. I mean, gosh, I had a doc I was on the phone with the other day. He's been doing a radio show every Saturday for the last year and a half in, I think it was Chicago. He wants to take all of those audios and create a podcast. Beautiful idea. Because he goes, I'm only on the air for a half hour. I mean, I remember when we were doing it, Karen, and for a half hour, I think we were paying about $1,200. Like it works, but now poof, it's gone after a half hour. It doesn't work that way with podcasting. You're out there consistently and you're building your audience.
Yeah. Awesome.
So I'm gonna wrap up the webinar because I'm gonna be getting on a teleconference with the Master Circle in about a half hour. So I'm gonna need to think about what I'm gonna talk about.
Cool.
Yeah.
This was fun, Ed. We should do this again. Yeah. I hope people got value. I hope they kind of maybe saw a little bit of a different spin, if you will, and being able to do a podcast and being able to take content they have in a written format and actually produce episodes out of it. And by all means, they can, of course, connect with you if they have questions. But if they want to connect with me too, I'd be more than happy to kind of help them out or give any kind of tips and feedback that was really helpful for me.
And I just want to encourage everyone too that, if you're kind of on the fence, this is the time to get in the program. It's going to be going to it's going to be going to a subscription, a monthly subscription or a yearly subscription. I haven't decided. And it's also going to definitely be going up in investment. So I want to make sure that everyone gets all those bonuses. Everyone gets the value. I had some docs that when we first launched the program, I think they got in at around 500 was the investment. And they still keep getting all of these updates, all of this value, that we keep adding to the program. And I'm not stopping. I'm going to keep adding more. The more that I learn, the more ways. There's something I learned about called Spreaker today. Do you know that one, Dr. Karen?
I have heard about it, but I don't know. I'm like blanking on it right now. What is it?
Okay. So it's a new platform for listening to audio, and podcasters are posting onto Spreaker. So I'm going to be adding that to the program. I mean, everyone's talking about Periscope now. There's all these different ways that we can help to market your podcast. But the fact of the matter is, you can have something like Periscope. But if you have nothing to funnel people back to where they can get more information and listen, then they're not going to stick. So maybe I'll end it on that. So go to the add to the cart button on the side there. If you see it on the side, go there, hit that, go through, listen to Dr. Carey. He'll take a Kleenex with you because he might make you cry. And then I would love to help you jump onto the podcast training, Doc.
Cool. This was fun. I hope to see everyone there.
All right. Thank you.